Folks, we've made it. Welcome on back here to Traders Talk and to begin our official start to summer here after Memorial Day. Great to have all of our students and members alike live inside our trading room here. Great to have Grant, Alex, Brian. I got Jeff, Bell, Ray, got Phil, Danny. Great to see Danny back here, our new platinum student joining us here. Luis, Alex, Brian. If I did not shout you out, my apologies. Get the old webcam back up for everybody there. Get the ugly mug showing for you. Great to have everybody joining us, especially if you're a new member joining us inside our live trading room, or if you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, any of our social media streams or platforms here. I'm going to be popping that up on the lower left at Cyber Trading U. Got a couple more weeks with these like broken fingers, so that'll do. But otherwise, there it is, lower left. Hit the like, follow, subscribe button just at the end of this video if you're on social, and then otherwise on the top left, just a little QR code to join us live inside our trading room. But hey, I'll start off with this. Great to have Margaret, Roseanne, Ravina. There we go. The ladies of the trading room. Fine. There we go. Got some ladies joining us here. It's not just the guys right now. No, I'm teasing, of course. Great to have everyone joining us collectively. But with that, man, today's been a lackluster day, right? I mean, not to be surprised because we're coming off a holiday, going into a holiday, and coming off a holiday. Schools are off and families are still kind of trickling back into like regular life, taking time off, and spending time with kids, right? Not only that, it's the beginning of summer. So especially if you're up north, if you're in the Northeast, this is the best time of the year, obviously. Fausto on his home living channel, just showing actually is like baby chickens, and not just the baby chickens, little baby birds, right? So, obviously that's across the board, especially in areas where there's more, colder weather, especially over the winter. Here in Florida, it's not really outside the norm right now. But otherwise, though, that's where you want to take the time to enjoy non-trading activities. You're not behind a bright ass computer screen, right? No, but with saying that, at least what I want to start off with though is the rest of the holidays, because Fausto brought this up earlier. So I just took this little snapshot here right before we started. This is the 2024 trading calendar with all of the federal holidays, all the holidays in which the markets are closed. So just coming off Memorial Day here, next major holiday is Juneteenth, which is on the 19th. Now I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was on a Monday. I don't have that data in front of me here, but I think last year was a Monday. This year's on a Wednesday. That screws the market up, right? Like I'll take a day off, no problem there. It actually gives me the chance to fly back up to New York to be with my own family, actually. So with that in mind, the markets are off on Wednesday, but it's going to be slow on Tuesday. It's going to be slow on Thursday, and then probably Friday as well. Right now we're in like peak summer. Technically, June 21st is the beginning of actuals. You know what I'm talking about. So, you could make that a 4 or 5 day weekend out there, especially if you have the chance to. If you're making enough money as a market maker or, larger trader out there in the market. Let me ask this really quick. Grant, Roseanne, Rovina, Alex, Brian, all of our students here. What's our main philosophy here at Cyber Trading University? If there's one mantra that you can kind of, say that's what CTU is all about. Obviously, keep the losses small. Obviously, you could say 30-second rule, say follow the trend. But there's one major catchphrase that Fausto talks about, and it's like free webinars each and every week. I try and hammer this point home in class in phase 1 and 2. Danny, there you go. And Margaret as well. I see a lot of us typing as well. So I love the answer of don't lose money. That's obviously a huge priority here at CTU, right? That's as equally important as what I do want you to answer here. And that would be to follow the big money. Folks, if there's no big money to follow going into a holiday, coming off a holiday, why would we be more aggressive out there as traders? Can you explain that to me? Like it's kind of like the blunt catchphrase, like riddle me that, Batman. Why would you look to be more of a gunslinger on a day where it's expected to be less, active out there? I think I wrote this like the first thing in the trading room this morning. And, I logged in. I'm going to try and get the post I can flash in front of us here. But I said it was a good morning. I said this at 8:30 in the morning. I did my pretty rare early morning run. And that's for that exact reason. It was coming off Memorial Day weekend. So it's a good morning, get some extra sleep and run outside. I said, day after Memorial Day is one of the worst days to be an aggressive trader. It's a good day for traders talk. And here we are now. So to continue that conversation here, well, on Juneteenth, markets are closed. The 18th is going to be slow. The 20th, 21st, people can make that a 4 or 5 day weekend. So don't expect too much happening out there. Now, this is where things get tricky, and this is where we'll kind of finish off for right now. We got a bunch of good questions coming in, just as we always do here in our Traders Talk workshop. But July 4th, obviously, I feel like everyone knows, even if you're not in the United States, markets are closed, Independence Day. But look at the little asterisk there, right? Little asterisk. You got a couple more down there, obviously, but I'm talking about July 4th. Little asterisk right there. That means that the markets are actually closed on July 3rd, or half day, might I say. It's a half day on July 3rd. Markets are closed at 1 p.m. Eastern on July 3rd, and then July 4th, obviously, markets closed. And then Friday, it's July 5th. Who the hell wants to be here on a Friday, right? You can make that another 4.5, 5-day weekend as is. And I say that as, someone, like not myself right now, but I'm saying, if someone is raising a family, for a mother, for a father, for a grandfather, that you want to spend time with your kids, your grandkids, these are the times to do it. So, hey, as a larger trader out there, as a market maker out there, that's even furthermore, it's kind of the catchphrase, sell in May and go away. Not really the case as a day trader, but as an investor, you want to take the time to enjoy the summer, especially if you're in New York, fly out to the Hamptons. I had the luxury of doing that once in my life, to go to the Hamptons, not to fly out there, mind you. But, obviously it's a nice destination spot. This is the time to do it. And if this is the time to do it, then we're not going to be as aggressive. I don't mind setting stops to break even and going par for the hole, but that's where I'm not going to try and take the same trade more than twice over, I'd say. CLSK, I barely got back into on the second attempt here. This was my only positive trade up until this next one here at this point. Basically my only good trade today. We'll go into this briefly, but otherwise we'll just go into other stocks as well. All right, so the CLSK stock, it's not on our morning list, but there was some news out with one of the cryptos, BITF, right? BITF flat right now. But actually, a news report came out with one of the other mining companies taking a position in this one. So a lot of activity early going into. Well, how about this to start? And this is how I knew this one wasn't as primed to make its run just yet. Folks, going into the market open, what's the trend of this stock? Let's see, is this 930 candle here? It is. Okay, I'll hide that. But from 830 going into the market open, what's the trend of that stock right there? Basically where I'm pointing you towards is it's not definitively up. It's not 100% like, oh, higher highs, higher lows. Yeah, it popped prior to 830. You're right. At 830, it did. It was moving up at first. Okay, well, even from here, the 40 minutes prior to the market opening up, the minutes leading into the open, it's not going up. You're not really seeing much buying. So that's where at the market open or after the first 5 minutes, you need to see the buying. It needs to come in. We don't see it. It just drops right away. So you knew that this one was not going to be as primed to make that type of volatile pop that you'd want. Again, you want to see it. It looks okay. It doesn't look terrible. It's a nice level one stock. But it clearly didn't do what you would want it to do, what you would hope for it to do. So, part of that is based off of and dictated off of trend. We talk about this more in phase one, obviously. Trend is your friend. We talk about this in a whole separate class. But in phase two, hammering it home a lot further with like more live market like this, where it's easy to say this in hindsight, but this is part of the process. This is part of that step by step process that, I encourage everyone to kind of go through in the morning. Well, hey, at 9:15 in the morning, at 9:20 in the morning, what's the trend of this stock? It's up percentage-wise. But that's not the question I'm asking. What's the trend? So that's the same exact type of question you want to ask on all of these other trades here. Is this finally going up now? Oh, son of a bitch. All right. No, I'm kidding. Seriously, because I wanted this to make its run earlier here. Let's go into this stock next. And I'll go into what I was looking for on this trade. And then we'll jump to my CLSK just over time. I got my position manager that you can see. Actually, I don't know why it doesn't do it this way on YouTube. Anytime you just see my position manager on the bottom right, and you say if you're Danny Grant, Patrick Ravine, I know that you see that there already, but just for some reason on social, it just blocks it, my ugly mug. But, hey, going into the market open here, what's the trend of this stock? I can't definitively say it's going up. It's like starting to bounce a little bit, but even kind of zooming it out from this perspective, it was dropping off quite a bit, even before 830, even before 845. So, it was more flat here leading into the open still. It was starting to make the higher lows. Okay. Is it breaking out just yet? No. So I was really hopeful for this to make that type of pop. That was like one of the better trades I was focused on going into the open. It took off at first, and then I went break even on this trade as it pulled back towards 223 or 224. I took my entry first as it was kind of consolidating. I wasted all of this too because I wanted more. So from there, it pulled back, and then even now, it's starting to make that better type of push. It's all right, as long as CLSK goes for me. At this stage in the day, as long as anything goes up for me, I'll be happy. If I miss out on this, it's not the end of the world. But let's actually dig into this trade live right now, and I'll go into basically the summation of what I was looking for on this move. So it had pre-market support here, not really shown from like iceberg, but it was just chart support at 220. Big volume here going into the open right around 230. Opening bell print, big dot, big ball at 232. Okay, well, it's having a tough time smashing under it here, and I'm thinking the more it can nip under it, under and back over, there is a case to see it begin to try and move back up and at least try and flip the VWAP here into support next. Holding under it after it broke under it as support here. So after the market opened, this just had a tough time trying to flip this into support. It was stabbing over it, looking really good actually here. But this is what I always tell you. If it's not going to make that big move going up, it's testing that level, especially a few times in a shorter concentration. This right here truly is like a critical moment. It needs to make that better push. Otherwise, it's going to tank. So unfortunately, it took even a little bit longer. Pretty hairy, choppy trade for me at first. But then it ended up ultimately not holding the VWAP as support. It pulled back, then from there tanked. Now, I became more interested in this trade later on, though, and it was right here. This ended up beginning to show over 250,000 share buyer out there at $2.12. And once I saw this, I said, okay, the hell with this. I think there's a very good chance in which this can make a move. I took the entry was at the time like 220 or 221 because I still wanted to see it break above the chart level, break above the 220 pre-market support line I had there. So as long as it did that with that iceberg order showing, I felt pretty confident that we'd get that run. Man, this thing just took its sweet time. And that's something that I don't want to sacrifice or give up on a typical day. Like for me, the longer a stock takes its sweet time to make its move, I reckon as long as it's over my level and I'm making money, it's printing over my level. All right, I'll live with it. Fine. If we go up, we go up. But if you're chopping down and breaking under my level, I'm more led to believe it's going to pull back and maybe even try and fill this daily chart gap further, right? You know, our next support level could have been at $2, the whole number at $2. So I'm not looking to hold on to a losing bag. It's just a shame that this didn't make that better squeeze here right after that iceberg order first showed up, right? Because they pulled the order. They pulled the order after, and then it tanked. It dropped back right back down. I was very disappointed. So going into Trader Stock, I was going to get into this move anyway, and like I was expecting it to be down. But yeah, obviously now this thing is starting to make a better squeeze here at this time. Question is, can it keep going? Well, it looks like we even had a new or another order on the bid that just got pulled earlier here, much lower at 170. This is where you got to see these orders reemerge, show them back up again towards that 235 price, 240 price here. If you see that, then I'm more bound to believe this will pop. Just because it moved back up here doesn't guarantee it's going to keep going. This is where in class, in phase one, we even talked about this just last week in our trading course. There we go. Get the webcam a little bit better there. But, you know, we went over this in our trading course just this past week where, well, hey, how often does this stock trade 78.9 million shares and counting? How many days in a row has it done that? How often has it done that? Obviously never, it seems. Right? All right. This is kind of how I compared it to in class. It rolled off the tongue well, so hopefully it rolls off the tongue as well here. Anyone ever try breathing through a straw? Anyone try breathing heavily through a straw, might I say? You could probably get a few like huffs and puffs in, but otherwise it's pretty difficult, right? This has small lungs at this point. This has a small gas tank at this point. It's already breathed quite heavily. It's already hyperventilated quite a bit. You know, it's trading so much volume here, and it did from the morning session. Look what happened in the morning session. It tanked. You telling me that it can't do that again? Look what it's doing as we're talking. I don't make the rules up here, folks. I just follow them. So that's where here, if this isn't going to try and flip resistance into support again, then don't be surprised if this just comes right back down. Let's see. Let's map this out here. As much as I had an interest in 220 this morning, I didn't really map much out here. I was pretty lazy. Like I said, today's a good day to get some errands done, go for a nice run outside, at least not feel like you're aggressive with your trading. So 230-ish was a pretty good level from CVP and Delta, perhaps there too. It needs to hold over that. It just simply put, this needs to hold over that as support now in order for this to survive. I mean, hey, CLSK ended up holding as support earlier here, and it still has, heading into the late morning now. So, I wasn't guaranteeing that it would, but as long as the stock is holding over my levels, then there's a chance. That's where even just earlier on that last one, POAI here, like shit, like, okay, this wasn't so nice to me. If this iceberg order pulled and it dropped, okay, I ended up making like 2 pennies on this trade. It was bad. I could have done so much better on this move. But then it moved up a little bit higher. It's like, okay, well, I took the trade from 220. I don't want to hold on to a losing bag. So this is not a case of shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, maybe could have, if like I wasn't teaching traders talk, or if I was more Josh the trader on a day like today. I'm not. Today is a day after a holiday. I am doing traders talk coming up. So, you can't really make up like, oh, shoulda, coulda, woulda, I should have done that. There's other trades, especially if it's not playing by your levels. So now at this point, if this wants to play by our levels, it's got to at least hold over 230, especially the VWAP, but really 230. All right. All right. So let me get some questions. I had some questions that came in from earlier, just going into our weekly workshop. Keep in mind, for all of our new students here, new trial members, and those of us on social, Facebook Live, YouTube, etc. We do this workshop each and every Tuesday morning. So at 11 o'clock Eastern, we're on here simulcast. And any questions that you got for myself, feel free to shoot me over a quick email. Just wrote my email address, at least in the trading room, and on social. I'll do that coming up here. Josh at ctutrading.com. There we go, popping up lower left there. So, with that, at least had a few questions that came in, and I want to get to them right now. So Gary had a question at first. Hi, Josh. I hope you're doing well. With regards to the 3 T's, how do you recognize a market maker trap? So this is where let's just start with the basics. And I'm not answering only to Gary. I'm answering to everyone, including Gary here. So I want full participation here from all of us here. Let's say if we are trying to recognize a market maker trap, what part of this screen do we look at? Where are we starting off? What part of the screen are we looking at? Now, I will say, just to kind of expedite this answer, I have a whole list of classes in the Phase 2 curriculum. I had to restart my computer. All right, I don't have my class calendar up in front of me at least here, but at least just back this past week in Phase 2 and going into next month's Phase 2 class, we're going to be talking more about volume. So not just in Phase 1 with intro to volume, but talking more about live volume, just interaction between buyers and sellers. So I'll just list them. Spoofing is like illegal, right? That's what you can Google, look up spoofing, like, SEC can flag you. It's illegal. That's manipulating the market with false intent. So that's where like a lot of newbie traders like start to get concerned, like, oh wait, people can manipulate the market and you could have fake orders out there. No, it's illegal. And as far as seeing these orders out there, these orders are real as far as my eyes see them. So even with that iceberg on POAI at 220 that got pulled, or it was at 212, it got pulled. Well, my entry level was 220, so I based my trade around that. In the grand scheme of lowering my risk, yeah, I guess I could have lowered my risk a little bit by setting it under this iceberg, such that even with this order getting completely pulled, 90% plus pulled from the book, went from 250 to 25, so just about 90% getting pulled there. That's a real order, because we don't know if that order will move up higher in price over time, move lower in price over time. So we need to react to what we see. That's where even on my CLSK trade from earlier, check this out. This is pretty cool. Just look at this ladder. Look at this ladder on the ask. Now, we talk more about that in our classes. Phase 2, I do most of that there. But that's another type of like, not trap, but that's another strategy. So, actually to kind of like going forward mention, obviously we use 3 T's, tradable trend trap. I don't like using the word trap because it provides like a negative connotation. It provides like the same sense of like manipulation. It's a strategy. Let me ask us here really quick. Let's pretend that you own POAI. Let's say you jumped in, you're in, and let's say that you want to sell at 250, but all of a sudden you see, um, something. Let's just say something happens on the chart. Just generally speaking, just make it simple. Let's say that you want to sell higher. Is it possible for you to pull your order to sell at 250 in order to try and make more money and sell at a higher price? Obviously, the answer is yes. Of course, it's 100% possible, right? So that's where I don't want to have anyone pull their hair out like, manipulate. It's just strategy. It's just strategy. I do that. You do that. Market makers do that. It's a matter of reacting to it in the heat of the moment and just keeping that level in mind. So outside of just spoofing, you could say there's layering, which is otherwise synonymous, known as stacking. So layering / stacking. You'll hear those words hand in hand. It's the same exact thing. Ladder is separate though. And then market maker refreshing. Market maker refreshing, I'd say those are the main strategies that you would see built out on the order book out there on level 3 and level 4. So I'll take a lot more time in phase 2, Gary, to go over that. And for all of us here, otherwise, like we just finished a good chunk of that up last week. Next month in June, I'm digging all into the volume though, even starting off on level 2, then level 3, and then obviously book map level 4. All right, though. So let's keep it going though for the meantime. We got a couple other questions that did come in, and here we go. So I actually had a bunch that just came in from 2 separate students through email, so I'll bounce back and forth here. So Michael, Michael joined a little over a month ago. I sent him like kind of a longer email. So I'm basically just trying to sum it up here, and I'm just reading it here quickly. Okay. Okay, this will be an interesting one. Okay, I like this. So I don't always answer this as much directly. So the question is from Michael. Joined over a little over a month ago. He's been enjoying his time so far, but he wants to gain more insight as far as how we look to take trades. And again, that's where I keep kind of jumping back. Don't mean to sound like a salesman, folks, but this is where we have the chance to teach you in our main curriculum, phases 1, 2, 3. So after phase 1, if you've gone through phase 1 like 3-4 times over, then is the time to jump to phase 2, then to phase 3. But otherwise, though, most of our students just start off with all 3 phases together and get a better deal, all that good stuff. But that's for you to talk to your education advisor about. Michael is asking, though, aside from you and Fausto, let me jump back to CLSK as I say this too. Keep track of my position here. Aside from you and Fausto, who are the best people to follow in the trading room? Ooh, I love that question. Okay, so the best people to follow in the room, I'd say, are the best people, or the best people to follow in the trading room are those that I would say provide the best insight as far as like why they're doing what they're doing, because you don't need to do that. You literally don't need to do that. That's not your role in this trading room. But if someone looks to do that and goes above and beyond with providing explanation to you right away, you could tell that's probably someone that is like actually making money. Think of it. So I liked how they phrased it to begin with. Aside from you and Fausto and Rich on top, let's add Rich to that as well. Rich has been a part of CTU for probably like 5 years now. Hey, I came into CTU with 0 experience within the stock market. I say that each and every time I get asked, hey, talk to me a little bit about yourself. Yeah, I came in 2014 with, I can't make a full circle with this hand, with 0 stock market experience here, right? And it's to say that over time, I saw the opportunity and profit potential, but that doesn't make you a good trader. What makes you a good trader is submersing yourself in these classes and journaling and going through the highs and the lows, going through your traders talk, your coaching. I at least had the privilege of having Fausto directly over me, at least in our office at the time. So, he was able to give me very good insight as far as strategy. But I will say, I've taken the time myself to this was back when I was living in my childhood house, in my parents' house in Plainview, New York. I would be in the winter seasons, especially when it was like freezing outside, going through classes nonstop, just nonstop. And not every employee of Fausto's did that back then, just to shoot straight. Like not every education advisor, sales rep, not everyone did that back then. I did. That's where I got to where I was as an instructor, and that took me to another level. Rich is at that point right now. So, add Rich to that group too, me and Fausto, please. Now, on top of that, though, it's just to mention, generally speaking, those that provide the best actual advice. Loudest bark doesn't always have the sharpest bite. You know what I mean? So, there are some very skilled traders in this room that make more money than me and Fausto. Actually, just to make it very simple, our best trader in this room right now is someone who never chats. I know him by name, and I'll just mention Grant knows him by name. I won't say said name, but that's probably our best trader in our room. And Grant could probably just say, yeah, I know what you're talking about, Josh. So that's where I'll say, at least, if you want to follow certain traders in the room, chat me on the side. I'll give you a list of names. I don't want to have anyone feel bad if I don't mention their name, because there's a lot of names I can mention, right? So, I don't want to list 5 or 8 names and then for someone else to be like, wait, you didn't include me. Like, there's a bunch of great traders in this room. And the more that you're in this chat, I think it's just pretty simple to see. I think it's pretty straightforward to see, actually. So, that's all I'll say there. That's all I'll say there. And again, I could list a bunch of names. I just don't want to, I don't know if people take things personally. I don't want to have anyone be like, wait, you didn't mention me. I could list probably 20 people, but that's kind of all I'll say there. Now, otherwise, there's another question that came in from him saying, can you go over the T-1 rule that you mentioned in the trading room just this morning? So yes, that is something I could definitely take a lot of time to go into. This is game changing. Has everyone here received that email from their broker? If you're on Thinkorswim, Schwab, TradeStation, I got it like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Webull, Fidelity. Everyone should have gotten this email about T-1. Has everyone received this? Joyce says, just watch the chat room and watch the recommendations. My appreciation there, Joyce. And, hey, there's a lot of traders here that make good call outs and good trades and all that good stuff. But yeah, everyone received that email about T+1. Danny says no. Well, Danny just coming back to our trading room. So great to have Danny back, actually, just rejoining us. One of our students of C2 now jumping up to platinum and has the classes for life, and looking forward to getting back to work with Danny specifically. Hope you're feeling well, Danny. And hey, if you are just getting back into the swing of things, this is game changing, because basically, was it the SEC or is it FINRA? One of the two. That I'm blurry on. It's either SEC or FINRA. I think now they're making this change where instead of 2 business days for your funds to settle, it's 1 day now. It's the same as options. So if anyone trades options, then at that point, it's the same exact dynamic. Now, this is where I need to have full 100% confirmation on this, because, I still trade options, and I haven't traded actually in like probably a couple of weeks, but I still look to dabble here and there when I want to. It's just that I know when I've traded in the past, like this past year, I've been able to reuse the same funds the next day. If I day trade $5,000 worth of cash in my options account, and I'm out of those trades, they're day trades that I exited before the market closed, the next trading day, I was able to use those exact same funds. So that was T-1. I'm assuming the same is to be said with stocks, right? Grant says our girls are sharp. Oh, absolutely, Grant. Absolutely. And that I'll actually do a quick shout out right there too. So for Wendy, Joyce, Ravina, Margaret, Luis, got Barbara, who I think I saw before, Roseanne. So, and as well, I don't want to miss anyone, so my apologies. Kathleen, if you're listening. And Leda on top, right? You got Leda right there as well. See, now I'm made to be an asshole right now because I'm forgetting names off the top. Come on. You put me in a spot. No, I'm kidding. No, but seriously, at least getting back to T-1 or T+1, it is huge, because now at this point, it is 1 less day for you to wait to take day trades. So let's say if you're under that 25,000 PDT rule, which is still there, that hasn't changed. But let's say if you have $10,000 cash, if you use that $10,000 in cash across a number of day trades, I think it's just 1 day following in which you have those funds to reuse again. That's critical. So, I thought the rule was always, just 3 day trades in a rolling 5-day period. That might be more if you're on margin as well. I think that if you're on a cash account, it's as long as you're using settled funds, right? As long as you're using settled funds, you could at least day trade. You're not going to be making a lot of money if you're only day trading with $2,000 cash, because you could either take one trade of 2,000. Let's say you could take one trade that the stock is $1 or $2 a share on, and maybe you could do that on 1 or 2,000 shares, and maybe there's a chance you can make money on that. But what if you don't and you lose money on that? Then you don't have any more trades for that entire day because you used all those funds. Then the alternative would be to break that 2,000 up into a bunch of different day trades, but you're not going to make a lot of money trading just tiny size. So there is a complication with that, but it's just simply to say T-1 is huge. +1, -1, dyslexia. Just this new rule where you go from 2 to 1. It takes one less day for the funds to settle again. So it's huge for day trading. It's going to revolutionize. Maybe that will trickle down towards the 25,000 PDT rule. Maybe that'll kind of make SEC reconsider that over time. Wendy mentioning it is an SEC ruling in particular. So maybe the SEC over time reconsiders the PDT rule because of this coming up. Who knows? I think at the end of the day, for anything to make more money out there, right? But the whole rule behind the PD2 rule is to protect people, right? But just because people have money doesn't mean that they're good traders. And I thought that was the initial belief behind making that rule. But we have great traders in our room that don't have big account sizes. Hey, maybe life gets in the way. Maybe life got in the way to begin with, and you're good now, but you still don't have that extra, cushion money to toss into a trading account. But trust me, I could tell who our better traders are. Getting back to that question for Michael at first, but more so with T-1, it's going to really change things up. So let me know how you're doing so far, or at least throughout this week. I think this just started today. It started today on the 28th. So let me know for all of our students here across this week and across next week. So it doesn't mean today, but just going forward this week and next, let me know how you're doing with this so far with the new T-1 rule that you have. All right. Now, got a couple questions that came in from one of our new trial members here, Sham. And again, it's another lengthier email, I say. So let me just take a little time to go through it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just haven't read it yet. So I just got to skim through it really briefly. I came off a coaching call just earlier, a moment ago. Conveniently enough, give me a quick sec. So actually, he has two questions here for me. I'll answer the second question first because actually that segues with what I just said. So, I just came off a coaching call a second ago. Sham had a question here saying, I have an appointment with my education advisor, Alex, tomorrow, but it looks like CTU offers group classes and one-on-one training. I feel I better benefit from the one-on-one training. What is taught in each? Again, that's a better question for your education advisor. They're kind of the middleman or middle woman between you and Fausto and you and myself when it comes to learning more about the memberships. So they'll be able to give you the full curriculum breakdown, everything, the whole itemized everything. Case in point, though, with the group training, that's our whole A to Z encyclopedia. That's phases 1, 2, 3. That's everything that you need to know. You can't reinvent the wheel. So no matter what, over the years, we've restructured our classes, changed the format of them. We're not changing the strategy. We can't reinvent the wheel. The only thing that we've added over the years is book math, which is level 4, right? Starting to push up nicely here. Trust me, I've been watching here this whole time, been flapping my gums. We've been watching, but this is where at least, level 4 is the only thing that we've added over the last 7, 8, 9 years since I've been here. I've been with Fausto nearly 10 at this point. So, as far as the group training, I would strongly recommend for every single person to start with that, just because that has everything. I get it if you feel like you're better with one-on-one because it is more individualized, but to not spend too much time on it, at least when I first came into CTU, I had not just zero stock market training experience, but also zero teaching experience. So you might think, well, why should I learn from you? Well, that's because this is what I've done for the last 9+ years, every single day, with minimal days off. So I've taken great pride in learning to become a better trader and from years past, a better instructor. So that's where, at least if you're in the group training, I want you to know that we take every chat, every post, every question out loud, serious. I answer all questions. We go a little over in the group time as well, oftentimes. Now, the one-on-one training, I just dive right into live stuff. It's not as much starting you off on the beginning. And you might think that would be better for you. Well, let me just jump into it. Most people fail when they just jump into it. You ever try riding a motorcycle without learning to ride the motorcycle first? I haven't. That's why I'm still here. So that's where, at least for you, I think it would be best to start off on the beginning steps. Even we offer the phase 1 class with just the year membership to the trading room. Cyber Group Plus, right? If you're a Cyber Group Plus, phase 1 at least. But, at least start off on that. just start off on that to begin. Talk to your education advisor otherwise, or even talk to Fausto later on this week. At least he'll be able to break everything down for you. So Lawrence here in the chat says, doing awesome job at instruction. Appreciate that, Lawrence. I was not fishing for compliments, but I appreciate your kind words as always. And Wendy as well says you're an excellent instructor or teacher, Josh. Thank you. I mentioned this last week too, or maybe I even mentioned this in the classroom, just with the pre-market trading class. That was it. In the pre-market class I taught in phase 2 last week, I did mention this. So really quick, if you're platinum, if you're diamond student, you have a ton of one-on-one coaching. You know that, of course, but keep in mind that if you wanted to do pre-market coaching, I start that at 8 o'clock or I do 8:30. And if you were looking to do that, you need to be platinum or diamond. So otherwise, if you're gold, silver, bronze, I want to work with you in the live market during like regular hours, normal time hours. But if you have platinum, diamond, if you wanted to do pre-market coaching time slots, just shoot me a private chat, shoot me a message, and we'll just jump on the calendar there. But at least here, let's go over another one of Sham's questions at least as well. So Sham also focuses mainly on Amazon, Apple, NVIDIA, and Tesla. He was asking, aside from when you were focused on NVIDIA with earnings, do you often trade these stocks? Me, myself, I personally don't often trade these stocks. We will trade these stocks on occasion, and especially when there's not just news, but just generally speaking, better momentum. You don't need to have news for a stock to be up 2, 3, 4% on a morning or on a day. Even another stock that you didn't mention there that I'm a huge fan of, shout out Lisa Sue, AMD. So AMD is up 3.5% today. Looks like a great trade. And not only does this look like a great trade in terms of the chart, but simply put, and I know it's moving fast, so that's included, but the spread here is pretty tight for the price. For the price of this stock, this spread is pretty tight, and the order book is, relatively speaking, liquid. You're probably going to see an iceberg order at some point as this begins to move up a little bit more. You can't really say the same with NVIDIA. NVIDIA obviously is like the strongest stock across the whole market, right? Pardon me. But, this is that much more expensive than AMD at least. So the spreads are going to be that much more wide. The size of the orders out there are going to be that much smaller. You could trade options on NVIDIA. You could trade that single stock ETF as well on NVIDIA. NVDL. This actually is a lot better. Look at this. At least this is more liquid. So that's good. But like Tesla, if Tesla's up 3.5% like AMD is today, we would be calling it out. If it's at the highs of the day, if it's at the lows of the day, if it's showing good momentum in direction, then we're going to call it out at least. There's probably better trades for us to focus on because they're cheaper. They might be making even a more volatile move percent change-wise, right? I mean, just look at the POAI that, I'm not in right now and miss out on much, I guess. But, this was a nice little 30-cent gain. It's cheap. Do it on 1,000 shares. You can get $300 profit on something like that. That's what I was looking for earlier. So that's just where at least I'd rather trade something cheaper. That's the first. Now, on the flip side of that, allow me to just tie all loose ends together. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's better. So if you're a new student of CTU, we don't want you to be trading a lot of shares of a cheap stock just because it's cheap. If you're there, right place, wrong time, and you're trading 10,000, 20,000 shares. I had a student chat me last week or maybe the week before, and they were just talking about brokerages, just asking about like commission prices on certain brokerages, and I think they were relating it more towards like doing bulk size, doing it on 10,000 shares or more. Like, I have to pay a commission doing 10,000 shares. Is there a platform that you don't have to pay a commission on that? My first answer was like just Josh, the instructor answer. I'm just like, like some of our best traders here, the first part of the answer was, if you're making that much money and you're trading 10,000 shares of a stock, if you're nailing it on some good trades, then commission is still just the cost of doing business. If you're on a per share commission rate, if you're making a lot of money each and every day, if you're doing good trade to trade or more trades than not, you're doing pretty well. It's just the cost of doing business. So, of course, now that we're in a commission-free world for the most part, at least domestic here in the U.S., it definitely makes it easier, but we don't want to get like greedy or selfish in that regard, Think about what happened like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when we're all paying commissions, flat rate or per share. Now, that was kind of my first answer. That was like my Josh, the instructor answer. I'm like, for traders that are doing pretty well like that, it's just the cost of doing business. And I've not mentioned names, so obviously I don't mention any name in situations like this. So it's just to say, like, it got me thinking, like, why are they asking this question? They should not be trading 10,000 shares. This person, just shit. Like, when was the last time I traded 10,000 shares of a stock? It's probably like a couple years ago when I was being a jerk and like averaging down 2,000, being a jerk, like stupid. Now, I still don't like trading that much size because I'm doing certain things here that acquire my attention. So if I slip up with this big trade I'm in, I don't want to have that on my head the whole day, be pissed off, being down a whole bunch of money on just one trade. So that's where, if I feel that way, I mean, I'm sure. Well, let's start this way. I bet Fausto feels that way. It's not often that he's trading 10,000 shares of a stock. Trust me, I know this because I speak to him. He's doing some big sizes every now and then, but not all the time, right? There's a difference between every now and then and all the time. There's also a difference between a 35-plus year pro in Fausto Pugliese and a near 10-year pro in Josh Levitan, right? Well, if Fausto feels that way, then damn, I better feel that way. If I feel that way, I feel like a lot of us here should kind of feel that way. So, with this person in particular, I just, from working with them on coaching, I'm just like, I know that they're turning a corner. They are. I don't want to discredit them, but just I'm like, I know that they're not at that stage, and they ended up, I believe, just that's all I'll go as far as saying it. Like, I know that they took a big hit, and it was likely because they were trading that much size. They're trading that much size. So going back to this whole thing of like, just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's better. That means it's like more attractive. Like, oh, maybe I could trade more shares, but that's greed. That's letting greed take over. Even if it wasn't all 10,000 shares in one lump sum, maybe you're doing, a few 5,000 share lump positions. That was like the last time I did that was a number of years back, and I learned my lesson. I feel like we all learn a lesson there, but that's where I want to preach these sentiments to everyone here, especially not to, traders like the student I was chatting with the other week, because they've been with CTU for like 6 to 8 months, maybe a year at this point. But, this is even furthermore to like new students or trial members joining us. As much as our sentiment is to follow the big money, like that's where I was leading you towards with that question earlier. Our as equally important sentiment is to make sure that we, protect ourselves and we don't lose big money. So that, it's to say, make sure our seatbelts are set tight, but it's also to make sure that we're not trading too big size. You're not overexerting, as much from your account. Actually, talking about great traders in our room, I'll give one shout out in particular, Lawrence. Give one shout out, only one, because the more I mention, people will be like, wait, why not me? Give one shout out to Lawrence, because consistency wins the race. Talk about consistency. Lawrence is probably our most accurate trader, win-loss wise. I can't speak. So, want to follow a student? There we go, Lawrence. Not to put pressure on you, Lawrence, but it's true. Lawrence is probably one of our most accurate traders, win-loss wise, in our room. So consistency wins the race in more ways than one. Grant says, yes, you never stop learning. That too, right? That too. All right, so let's keep going through those. So I may have gotten another email or two here just over time, just to jump back to CLSK position. We're looking good, folks. We're in the Bitcoin bull market. The only issue with this long-term chart is that this thing's been coiling up in this range this whole time. So as far as the duration of this uptrend today, obviously now we're looking pretty damn good, trying to pop even more. So I want to go into this entry here that I took. I still haven't even gone into that part yet, but let me just finish up just with emails. Just want to make sure. Okay, there we go. Actually, this was not a Traders Talk question. That was a coaching question. And so I'm going to write back to my student coming up momentarily. So let's go into CLSK. So anyone here new to CTU that is a fan of crypto or Bitcoin? Hey, I know we got a lot of fans already. Brian, I know we got a bunch of students here that like Bitcoin and these mining stocks. Alex here, but is there anyone here that's been with CTU maybe only for a month, just brand new member of CTU that you're a fan of crypto, you're a fan of Bitcoin, or you know some of these stocks that we're calling out, Mara, obviously like Coinbase, this stock here, CLSK. So, we're heading into the Bitcoin bull market. We are in it. We're about 5 weeks after the halving. I told you about 6 to 8 weeks in, we're probably going to see some crazy stuff happen. Like a month in, 8 weeks in, within that general time frame. So I'm ultra bullish on this right now, just the sentiment of Bitcoin altogether. Now, this is not Bitcoin. This is a company that is publicly traded on the US markets that mines Bitcoin. So it's not a direct correlation. iBit would be your best gauge for Bitcoin altogether. This is the BlackRock ETF. Looks pretty damn similar to the most recent down and up move on Bitcoin here altogether here. So if you're looking to use a ticker to follow Bitcoin, it would be iBit. That would be your best one in my opinion. Now, otherwise though, I like trading CLSK. It's pretty volatile in a good way, not in a negative connotation, in a positive one actually, because it has a really good order book. It has icebergs. It's not too expensive. I could do this on 1,000 shares at least, and as long as I'm not really trading too many other stocks, that's okay. But here in the morning, I didn't have a huge interest in CLSK as if it was like the number one stock on my list. I mean, throughout the majority of pre-market, actually, it wasn't looking good at all. Then right before the open, this is minutes before 9:30, this thing decides to take off. So that's where pretty much instantly I say to myself, I'm going to be focused on this trade today. Maybe we see this pull back and break lower lows until 10:30. Maybe this begins to break out again later on and we just take the break of resistance. So just with this move right before the open, oh my God, okay, well, something's got to give, right? For all of us here, just let me ask, for a stock like CLSK, what set of levels should we be most focused on? What common set of levels typically has the iceberg orders out there? Lawrence here in chat says, keep on keeping on, little bit. Absolutely. And hey, if you're not trading big size as a new student, you're not getting knocked off the horse too far, right? The drop off the horse isn't too hard, if you're trading smaller size. So that's where you can keep on keeping on, just like Lawrence says. I like that. Great advice from Grant. And Lawrence says, Margaret here in chat. All right, so where are we most likely to find these levels? 50-cent levels and whole numbers, right? So that includes 18, that includes 1850, that includes up next what? What's after 1850, folks? All of us here in chat? 19. Okay, so takes us to right now, right? But that's where, hey, this had a really tough time breaking over 18. This is where it was like being a pain in the ass here for me this morning. It was trying. I thought we'd go. And it ended up going here later on. And this is where I'll show a book map here, because it wasn't just $18 that became support, but there was another price that complemented $18 pretty well. Is there anything that sticks out? Is there anything that sticks out on this entire 1 minute chart window? Is there anything that quite literally sticks out on this entire 1 minute chart window? Every part of this window, is there anything that sticks out? See a pretty big stick. Okay. And this we talk about more so in the phase 2 stock course here. It's the opening bell print, much like John wrote here in chat. John W. There we go. So yeah, right here. 475,000 shares filled exactly at 1792. If you didn't think 18 was big to begin with, now you have this level, which is about 8 cents under it. It's pretty close. So the combination there of 1792 and 18 became pretty good support. Now, when it broke above this as resistance and ran much better, broke the higher high, I wasn't in this trade at the time, or at least at first. Once it broke above 1830, I took a smaller trade, which was like my saving grace on the whole morning. This whole morning was like dead for me, and I missed this better part of the move at first. But that's where it takes me down towards 1030, and this is where I jumped in the trade afterwards. So it pulled back, and that's where I was looking for this to become support. It was right here. You had the opening bell print at 1792. You had $18, which is a level naturally, even though it didn't look like there was much at 18. Well, there actually was a pretty good order, but it showed up here at 1795. It's about 54,000 shares, about 54,000. Well, add that alongside the 475,000 right here because that became the level to work off of for this next wave up. So why did I take this trade? Because I'm bullish on this stock just going into this week, going into next week. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right today, but if I'm bullish on a stock to begin with, then I'm going to look for a big level, which I found there to be a pretty big level here at the opening print and at 18, like the combination of them. So you see my entry just right over the opening print. I took it at 1794, 1793. And at this point now, easy to say it moved up, but this needed to break above 1850 next. And generally speaking, it needed to break over 1850 next in order for this to fly. And it still took a long time for this to materialize. So, a couple false breaks where someone could have jumped in and maybe taken a small loss or a break-even trade. That's the truth of the matter. Like someone might look at this like, oh, I wouldn't have taken this. Why not? Because the more times it tests it in a smaller concentration here, I'm feeling it should go. This green candle here looks pretty good to me. It's just that the fact that if it's not going to make that big move going up, then the probability of it making a big move down increases. So you do want to take the small loss or the break-even trade at worst otherwise, but just the more times it nips it in a smaller concentration, you're getting that better move. Now, let's also see. Probably has some good volume built up right around 1842, 1844, right around there. 1842, 1844, a couple of previous closing prices there. So, ultimately, that's what probably led to the choppiness around the 1850. At least now we're starting to make higher highs. And with our next level up top at 19, I would assume for there to be a false breakout at first off 19, just in terms of theory. And the more stock goes up, 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 first test should be the best test. So 19 should be a good area just to take profit at. Now, if Bitcoin pops like right now, then that could be subject to change. Then, God forbid if we catch Bitcoin on a sharper pop right now or coming up, we could definitely see 19 get melted pretty quick. But you don't want to get too greedy. That's all I'll say there. So, what was it earlier, Wendy? There was a trade earlier. You made a great call out, very good call from Wendy. And, it was just like one of the things I shouted. I was like, oh my God, wait, it was the first test of resistance. Let's see it kind of, false break resistance at first and then kind of go from that point. What was that trade? I forgot. It was a good call out from Wendy. Let's see. I'm just going back and chat. Right? LIDR. That was it. LIDR. It was a good call. I'm making a new high of the day. It was a very good call because she alerted us to the stock. It was breaking out here. It was. And just the first test of resistance at 5, you should expect for it to fail. And not only just on the intraday chart, but let's just turn long-term right now. When was the last time this tested 5 at all? It hasn't since it broke under it here, right? Basically, right? So you know what? That's where I'll ask. And this is where we'll leave off for Traders Talk for today, for right now. But hey, it didn't look like it was like a strong chart support here. It's not like it was hovering directly above $5 on the daily chart. But let's just ask, what happens when a stock breaks under support and it smashes down? We'd like to think that the first time it moves back up there, support should become what? Right? So why expect continuation right away or, especially at first? Look what happened at NVAX, a little free game here because we went over this in class. In our paid classes, we did this one. Oh my God, look at the follow-up here on NVAX. Support became, at first, resistance, tank. There we go. All right, so folks, we're going to wrap up at least for the meantime. I'm going to try and get out of CLSK off of 19 if I can. Now, if you're on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you may reside. Here again, we'll show on the bottom left right there, at Cyber Trading You. Make sure to hit the like, follow, subscribe button, notification icon right there if you may, so you know when we're going live, when we're not. But otherwise, if you've been watching these streams and you wanted to take the next steps, join us inside our live trading room. We have like 120 of us here live right now. So great to have a bunch of us here. Shout out some names I didn't just a moment ago. So Chris, Charlene, always joining us here each and every day, students of CTU. Lee, got Mark R, Reynaldo enjoying his time with us as a newer trial member, I believe. So hopefully down the line we'll see Reynaldo in class, and you got Thomas B as well, and Victor, and all of us just here otherwise. Hey, our next audio broadcast will be at 2:30 Eastern, just later on today. That'll be our afternoon meeting. And then otherwise, folks, hey, we do this workshop each and every Tuesday morning. So, the best source for education is inside our classes or otherwise inside our live trading room. But, otherwise, we'll be back next week for a new edition here of our workshop. Take care. Talk to you soon.